I was finally ready to forgive my mother for years of neglect. But the letter she left me after moving away revealed she had chosen to start a new family without ever looking back. The closure I wanted turned into another scar I'll never heal from. I thought I understood betrayal. I thought I knew what it meant to abandon someone you're supposed to love. My mother left when I was 12. Just packed her bags one Tuesday morning and drove away to start fresh with some guy she'd been seeing behind my father's back. No goodbye, no explanation, just gone. For 15 years, I carried that wound. It shaped everything about me, especially how I loved Sarah. Sarah was everything my mother wasn't: loyal, present. She stayed with me during panic about abandonment. She held me when I cried about feeling. She promised she'd never leave like my mother did. We got engaged on a beach in Maine. She cried when I told her I wanted to build the family I never had. We started planning our wedding. Picked out names for kids we hadn't even conceived yet. I thought I was healing. Then Mom reached out. The text came on a random Thursday. I know I don't deserve it, but I'd like to talk. I'm in town for a few days. Coffee. My first instinct was to delete it. Sarah found me staring at my phone shaking. What do you want to do? She asked, rubbing my back. I think I need closure, I said. I'm tired of carrying this around. Sarah smiled. I'm proud of. That takes courage. I met Mom at a Starbucks downtown. She looked older, tired. Different somehow. Look good, she said, like we'd just seen each other yesterday instead of after 15 years of silence. Why now? I asked. She stirred her coffee. I've been in therapy, working through things I know. Abandoned me. I know. Her voice cracked. I was young, scared. I made terrible choices. For 2 hours talked. She apologized. She cried. She told me about her mistakes, her regrets. She said she wanted to try again. I'm getting married, I told her. To someone amazing. Someone who loved to meet her. Maybe, I said. I need time to process this. She nodded. I understand. But Marcus, I'm moving to California next week. New job, fresh start. If want to reconnect, it has to be now. Another ultimatum. Another choice to make about when and how she'd be in my. I told Sarah everything that night. She was supportive but cautious. Just be careful, she said. Don't let hope cloud you. And I spent 3 days wrestling with the decision. Finally I called Mom. I want to try, I said. But slowly. And I want to meet Sarah. We arranged dinner for her last night in town. I was nervous but optimistic. Maybe this could work. Maybe I could have a mother at my wedding. The restaurant was nice Italian. Sarah wore the blue dress I loved. She was nervous too but trying to be welcoming. Mom was late. 20 minutes turned to 30. Sarah kept checking her phone, making conversation to fill the awkwardness. Maybe there's traffic, she said. 40. Fader kept asking if we wanted to order. I called Mom's phone. Straight to voicemail. An hour passed. Sarah reached across the table and took my hand. I'm sorry, she whispered. I felt that familiar knot in my stomach. The same one I'd had at 12 years old, waiting for a mother who was never coming home. We left. Sarah drove because I was too shaken. She probably had an emergency, Sarah said, but I could hear the doubt in her voice. At home I found an envelope slipped under our door. My name written in Mom's handwriting. Inside was a letter and a photo. The photo showed Mom at what looked like a backyard barbecue. She was smiling, arms around 2 young kids, maybe 8 and 10 years old. Behind her stood a man I didn't recognize, his hand on her shoulder. They all looked happy, like a family. The letter was short. I read it 3 times before the words sank in. She hadn't come to dinner because she'd already decided. She'd already chosen her new family over any relationship with me. But this time, she'd made me hope first. Sarah found me on the kitchen floor, holding the letter and photo. I couldn't speak, couldn't cry, couldn't breathe. What is it? She asked, kneeling beside me. I handed her the letter. I watched her face change as she read it, watched her jaw clench, watched her eyes fill with tears, not for my mother but for me. I'm so sorry, she whispered, pulling me into her arms. That night something inside me broke. Not the clean break of my childhood abandonment, but something messier. More jag. I'd spent 15 years building walls to protect from exactly this kind of pain, and in one moment of hope, I'd torn them all down. Sarah held me while I fell apart. She whispered reassurances. She promised she'd never me like this. But here's the thing about being betrayed by the person who was supposed to love most. It doesn't just, it changes how see love itself. Lying there in Sarah's arms, I couldn't stop thinking about how easily my mother had walked away. Again, how she'd built a whole new and never looked back. If the woman who gave birth to me could discard me twice, what did that say about me? What did that say about love? Sarah fell asleep holding me, but I stared at the ceiling all night. The seed of doubt had been planted, and doubt, I was about to learn, grows fast in broken soil. The wedding planning became after that letter. Sarah would get excited about flowers or venues, and all I could think about was my mother's new family. How she'd probably helped plan Emma's birthday parties, but couldn't be bothered to show for dinner with her own son. Or distracted, Sarah said one evening as we looked at invitations. Talk to me, I'm fine. Or not fine, haven't been fine since that night. I wasn't sleeping, wasn't eating much. The abandonment felt fresh again, like picking at a scab until it bled. Maybe we should. Sarah's face fell. Why? I need time to process everything with my mom. Marcus, she's not worth postponing our. She's still my mother. No, she's not. Sarah's voice was sharp. A mother doesn't abandon her child twice. A mother doesn't choose strangers over her own son. She was right, but hearing it made me angry. Angry at Mom. Angry at the situation. Angry at Sarah for being so perfect when I felt so broken. Don't understand, I snapped. Then help me understand. But I couldn't. How to explain the hole that abandonment leaves? How to make someone who's never been thrown away understand what it feels like to be disposable? Work became my escape. I started staying late, taking on extra projects. Anything to avoid going home and seeing Sarah's worried face. That's when I met Jessica. She was a consultant on a new project, blonde, funny, completely different from Sarah. She didn't know about my baggage or my broken family or my mother's letter. To Jessica, I wasn't a damaged man with abandonment issues. I was just Marcus. It started innocent enough. Working dinners that ran late, drinks after particularly stressful days, conversations that had nothing to do with wedding planning or my childhood trauma. Seemed tense. Jessica said one night after we'd finished a presentation, Everything okay at home? I should have said yes. Should have talked about Sarah, my fiancée, the woman who loved me despite my mess. Instead I said, it's complicated. Jessica leaned closer. I'm a good listener. So I told her about my mother, about the letter, about feeling like I wasn't worth staying for. That's awful, she said, her hand touching mine. But no, her leaving says nothing about, right? It says everything about her. It was exactly what I needed to hear from exactly the wrong person. Jessica texted me the next day, hope her feeling better. Sarah was in the kitchen when I got home, surrounded by wedding magazines. How was day? She asked, looking with a smile. Fine. Long. Well, I have good news. I found the perfect flowers for the centerpieces. She was so excited, so hopeful, so completely unaware that I'd spent my evening confiding in another woman. The guilt hit me like a truck. But when Jessica texted again the next day, I answered. And the day after that, and the day after that. Within a week we were texting constantly. Nothing inappropriate, just friendly conversation. But it felt like a secret, and secrets have a way of growing in the dark. Sarah noticed my mood improving. Seem better, she said, curling next to me on the couch. I'm glad, working through things. I kissed the top of her head, hating for the lie. Thanks for being patient with me. That's what love is, she said. Sticking around when things get hard. Her words should have been a wake call. Should have reminded me what I had, what I was risking. Instead, they reminded me of my mother's letter, of how easily someone could promise to stay and then decide to leave. Jessica never made promises, she just made me feel normal. The first time we kissed, it was after drinks following a successful client meeting. She walked me to my car, and when I turned to say goodbye, she was right there. This is probably a bad idea, she whispered. Probably, I agreed, but I kissed her anyway. I drove home to Sarah, who was asleep in our bed wearing the engagement ring I'd given her, the ring that represented promises I was already breaking. I stood in the doorway watching her breathe, hatting. But I didn't stop. The affair went on for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of lies and guilt and stolen moments that felt like escaping from my own. Jessica never asked me to leave Sarah, never pressured me for more. She seemed content with whatever pieces of me she could get. Maybe that's why I kept going back. She expected nothing, so I couldn't disappoint her. I couldn't be abandoned by someone who wasn't trying to keep me. Sarah, meanwhile, was planning our entire future. She showed me photos of the venue, talked about honeymoon destinations, asked if I wanted kids right away or if we should wait a few years. Every conversation was a twisting in my gut. I love, she'd say randomly, kissing my cheek while I cooked dinner or folded laundry. I love too, I'd reply, the words feeling like ash in my mouth. The end came on a Tuesday. Sarah had gone to her sister's house to address wedding invitations. I was supposed to join them after work, but Jessica suggested dinner instead. Just dinner, she said, to celebrate finishing the project. I texted Sarah that I'd be late. Work emergency. Jessica and I went to a restaurant across town. Somewhere we wouldn't run into anyone I knew. We were sharing dessert when I saw her. Sarah's sister Emma 2 tables away with her husband. My went cold. Emma was facing our direction, and I watched her expression change when she recognized me. Her eyes moved from my face to Jessica, to our intimate little table, to the way Jessica's hand was resting on mine. I my hand away, but it was too late. Emma's face went through a dozen emotions in 5 seconds. Confusion, understanding, disappointment, anger. She said something to her husband, who turned to look. They gathered their things and left without approaching our table. Who was that? Jessica asked. No one. I lied, my voice barely a whisper. But Jessica wasn't. She could see the panic on my face. That was someone. Marcus. Was their sister. Jessica sat back, the pieces clicking together. Oh God. Oh no, I was already pulling out my phone texting Emma. Please let me explain. Her response came immediately. Have 1 hour before I tell her. I money on the table and ran. Driving home, I tried to figure out what to say, how to explain the inexplicable. How to justify betraying someone who'd never done anything but love. Sarah was sitting on the couch when I walked in, still in her dress from the invitation party. Her face was tear-streaked but calm. Emma had already called. How long, was all she said. I could have lied, could have minimized it, could have tried to make excuses about my mother and my abandonment issues and how broken I was. Instead I told her the truth. 3 weeks. She nodded like she'd expected it. To love her. Then why? That was the question I'd been asking. Why had I thrown away the best thing in my for someone who meant nothing to me? I don't know, I said, and that was the truth too. Sarah stood slowly. I need to leave. Sarah, please, let me explain. There's nothing to explain. Her voice was steady, but I could see her shaking. Made a choice, now I'm making mine. She walked to the bedroom and closed the door. I stood in our living room, surrounded by wedding magazines and engagement photos, and all the evidence of the I'd just destroyed, and finally understood what my mother had done to me. She'd taught me that love was temporary. That people leave. That I wasn't worth staying for. And I'd taken that lesson and used it to become exactly like her. I'd abandoned someone who loved me before she could abandon me. The irony was perfect and devastating. I packed a bag and went to a hotel. Sarah's ring was on the kitchen counter when I left. 3 days later she changed the locks. The wedding invitations had already been sent. Sarah's mother called to uninvite me to my own wedding. Her voice was cold, professional, like she was canceling a business meeting. The venue has been notified. The flowers have been cancelled. Sarah will be returning the ring and gifts. Please don't contact her. Can I at least? No. The line went dead. I tried calling Sarah directly, but she'd blocked my number. Email too, social media. She'd erased me from her digital as efficiently as she'd erased me from our apartment. The only contact came through her lawyer. Dissolution of accounts, division of shared property, clinical legal language that reduced 4 years of love to a list of assets and debts. I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment across town. The kind of place that rents by the month and doesn't ask too many questions. My neighbors were mostly divorced men and college students. People in transition. People who'd made mistakes. Jessica tried to reach out a few times. I'm sorry, she texted. I never meant for this to happen. I didn't respond. She was just collateral damage in my self-destruction. Another person I'd cause I couldn't figure out how to heal. Work became awkward. People knew. In an office of 50 people, news travels fast. I'd catch colleagues whispering and falling silent when I walked by. The woman I'd cheated on was well liked. Everyone had met her at office parties. Everyone had seen how happy we were. Now I was the guy who'd thrown it all away. My boss pulled me aside after a client meeting. "Everything okay at home, Marcus?" Seemed distracted. "I'm fine." Because performance lately, I wasn't fine. Wasn't sleeping. Wasn't eating properly. The guilt was eating me alive, but worse than the guilt was the loneliness. Sarah had been my person. My safe harbor. The one who understood my damage and loved me anyway. Without her, I was just alone with my broken pieces. I started drinking too much. Not falling down. Just enough to take the edge off the self-hatred. Enough to sleep without dreaming about what I'd lost. 3 months after the breakup, I ran into Sarah at a coffee shop. She looked different. Thinner. Sadder. But there was something else too, a strength I hadn't seen before. Like she'd survived something and come out harder. I said, my heart hammering. "Marcus." Her voice was neutral. Not angry, not just empty. "I'm okay." She paused. "I'm in therapy. Working through some things." The irony wasn't lost on me. She was in therapy to deal with what I'd done to her. Just like I'd been in therapy to deal with what my mother had done to me. The cycle of damage passing from person to person like a virus. "Sarah, don't." She held her hand. "Please don't. I need to know how sorry I am." I know we're sorry. But sorry doesn't fix anything, right? Sorry was just a word. It didn't undo the betrayal. Didn't rebuild the trust. Didn't give her back the future she'd planned. I said, the words falling out before I could stop them. For a moment her composure cracked. I saw pain flicker across her face. "I miss who I thought were," she said quietly. "But that person never really existed, did he?" The question hung in the air like smoke. "I'm not my mother," I said desperately. "I'm not her." Sarah's laugh was bitter. "No, or worse. She abandoned a child who couldn't defend himself. Abandoned someone who loved by choice." Her words hit like physical blows. "Want to know the worst part?" she continued. "I keep thinking about all the times comforted me when I was scared of being. All the times promised to never leave me like she left. And then didn't leave, just made me had." She picked her coffee and walked toward the door, then paused. "I hope someday figure out that the hole mother left can't be filled by other people. But I won't be here when do." She left, and I sat alone in the coffee shop, surrounded by strangers living their normal lives while mine fell apart. That night, I called my father for the first time in months. "Dad, it's Marcus." "Hey son, how are?" I broke down, told him everything, the affair, the breakup, the crushing loneliness, how I'd become everything I hated about my mother. He listened without judgment, the way he always had. "Mother leaving broke something in," he said finally. "But that's not an excuse, that's just an explanation. I don't know how to fix this. Can't fix it. Sarah's gone and she should be. Broke something that can't be repaired." His honesty was brutal but necessary. "So what do I do now?" "Learn from it. And make sure never anyone like this again." 6 months later, I got a text from an unknown number. The message was short. "Thought, should know Sarah's engaged. She's happy. Leave her alone." I stared at the message for a long time, then deleted it. Sarah had moved on. Found someone who could love her without destroying her. Someone who wouldn't mistake his own damage for an excuse to damage others. I was genuinely happy for her, and completely devastated for her. That night I wrote her a letter I knew I'd never send me. I sealed the letter in an envelope and put it in my desk drawer. Maybe someday I'd it. Maybe I'd keep it forever as a reminder. A year passed. Then 2. I dated occasionally, but nothing serious. How to trust with someone else's heart when proven'll break it. I focused on work, got promoted, moved to a better apartment, started running, tried meditation, read books about healing and forgiveness and moving forward. But late at night when the distractions faded, I'd lie in bed and think about Sarah, about the we'd planned, about the family we'd never have, about growing old together and proving that love could last. I destroyed all of that in 3 weeks of selfish cowardice. My father was right, some things can't be fixed. Some damage is permanent. I am the son of a woman who taught me that people leave. Instead of proving her wrong, I became her. Instead of breaking the cycle, I perpetuated it. Sarah trusted me with her heart, and I used it to validate my own brokenness. The worst part isn't that I lost her. The worst part is that she lost the ability to trust completely. Someone else might earn her love, but they'll never get the innocent faith she gave me. I didn't just betray Sarah. I betrayed the woman she'll become. The one who'll always wonder if she's enough to keep someone from straying. The one who'll carry a piece of my damage forever. That's the real consequence of betrayal. It doesn't just break the person, it changes them. Makes them smaller, more guarded, less willing to believe in forever. I know this because it's what my mother did to me, and now I've done it to someone else. The cycle continues, one broken heart at a time, until someone is brave enough to choose love over fear. I wasn't brave enough, and Sarah will spend the rest of her recovering from my cowardice.